In the brutal world of war, where human lives are constantly weighed on the most fragile of scales, there are soldiers who are not only brave, but who surpass all physical and mental limits to become legends. They fight not just with weapons, but with iron will and a heart devoted to their comrades. One such person is Matthew Lewis Irvin, a name few may know, but a symbol of unyielding resilience during World War II. However, the heartbreaking truth is that despite his extraordinary feats, Matt Irvin was forgotten for more than 3 decades before being rightfully honored. Matthew Lewis Irvin was born on August 25, 1919, in Buffalo, New York, into a Polish immigrant family rich in tradition and family values. From a young age, he was taught patriotism and a sense of responsibility. In 1937, he enrolled at Cornell University and joined ROTC, where he began to develop military skills and leadership spirit. Matt was not naturally big or tall, but his endurance, determination, and courage made him a remarkable soldier. In his youth, he already showed an indomitable spirit, always ready to stand up for what he believed was right. World War II entered its most intense phase, and Matt Irvin was sent to the North African battlefield, a harsh desert land where Allied forces faced elite Nazi troops commanded by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. In the Tunisia campaign, particularly at the Battle of Kasserine Pass, the first American clash with German forces, American soldiers, including Matt, endured extreme trials, blazing desert heat, water shortages, limited ammunition, and the overwhelming tactics and experience of the enemy. Yet it was in those circumstances that Matt demonstrated extraordinary leadership, guiding his troops into dangerous positions, fighting fiercely, and holding key defensive lines, reducing losses and creating momentum for upcoming campaigns. At that point, his comrades began calling him the Ghost, the indestructible Phantom. On June 6, 1944, the historic D-Day, when thousands of Allied soldiers landed on the beaches of Normandy, Matt Irvin was assigned a critical mission: to lead an infantry battalion deep into German-controlled territory. The fierce battle in the St. Lo region quickly turned into a living hell. German MG-42 machine guns unleashed bullets like rain, and artillery shells devastated every building and trench. Matt's battalion was caught in a crossfire while trying to cross an open field with no cover. Many of the battalion's officers were wounded or killed. In that situation, Matt didn't hesitate to crawl toward an abandoned Sherman tank. Even though it had been hit by a shell, the engine still worked. Amidst a hail of bullets, he climbed on, drove the tank straight into German lines, and opened a path for the troops behind him. Thanks to that unmatched bravery, the battalion broke through the enemy line and drove the Germans out of key positions. But just as he returned to the rear to command again, Matt was shot in the neck, a nearly fatal wound. Even so, just days later, he reappeared on the front lines, refusing to rest, continuing to lead the fight. The story of the Ghost of Normandy, his new nickname, spread across the battlefield, becoming a symbol of unbreakable resilience. In less than 90 days, Matt Irvin was wounded 7 times, and each time was proof of his tenacity, courage, and unyielding spirit. The first wound came when he led a squad across a minefield and through German machine gun fire in St. Lo. A shell fragment tore into his left shoulder, shredding his camouflage shirt. Blood soaked his body, but he quickly bandaged it and kept commanding, shouting to his men, "Medics will come later. Right now, we have to take that hill." Less than a week later, during a nighttime counterattack, he was shot a second time, this time in the side. Writhing in pain, Irvin still crawled to the machine gun position, firing to cover his soldiers' retreat. The third time, he was wounded in the leg by a grenade fragment. Though doctors insisted he be sent back, he refused, saying only, As long as I can see the enemy, I will fight. The fourth wound struck his right arm as he climbed over a collapsed brick wall to rescue a trapped soldier. Blood drenched the hand holding his weapon, but he still pulled the man to safety. The fifth came in close combat during a skirmish in a small French village when he was stabbed by a bayonet while wrestling a German soldier. The blade pierced his coat and sunk beneath his collarbone. The deep wound nearly knocked him unconscious, but Urban used his pistol to shoot the enemy point blank. The sixth wound, perhaps the most horrifying, occurred when he climbed onto an abandoned Sherman to launch a counterattack. Just as he started the engine, a sniper's bullet pierced his throat, severing his windpipe. Blood gushed from his neck as he collapsed over the controls. Soldiers believed Matt was dead, but no, he lived. Rushed into emergency surgery, Urban survived with a breathing tube inserted directly into his neck. Doctors said he would never speak again, perhaps never return to combat. 3 weeks later, Matt Urban returned, still voiceless, but standing silent among the ranks, his eyes blazing, hands signaling, charge. The silent soldier, with a white bandage around his neck, had become a living symbol of indestructible will. The final, seventh, wound came from a shell blast while he was rescuing a wounded soldier under heavy fire. The explosion blew apart the ground nearby, injuring his spine. Despite intense pain and partial paralysis in his lower body, Urban still crawled to drag his comrade to safety. So many wounds, so many times rising from death. Matt Urban was not immortal. He simply refused to fall. To the soldiers, he was no longer just a commander. He was a living legend, the man who could not be killed, the ghost of the battlefield. Despite accomplishing extraordinary feats, Matt Urban spent 35 years in obscurity and injustice. The reason was that the Medal of Honor recommendation file for him was lost during inter-unit document transfers. When Matt was severely injured and sent to the rear for treatment, his new commander did not continue the award process, leading to the loss of critical paperwork. Administrative confusion and complex procedures prevented Matt from being honored in time, while his comrades and those who knew of his deeds remained deeply troubled by the injustice. Not until the 1980s did a veteran from Matt's former unit discover the missing records and begin sending petitions to the Pentagon. After a long and difficult process, in 1980, Matt Urban was finally awarded the prestigious Medal of Honor by President Jimmy Carter, a long overdue recognition for an indomitable hero. Matt Urban passed away in 1995, but his spirit and sacrifice live on in the hearts of those who fought beside him, as well as in the history of the United States. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery, the resting place of the nation's greatest heroes. His grave has become a destination for generations of American soldiers to visit and pay tribute. Matt Urban's legacy is not merely medals or titles, but a symbol of courage, unwavering willpower, and an eternal belief in freedom and justice. Thank you for joining me on this journey to explore the heroic history of Douglas MacArthur, the legendary warrior who never backed down. If you love stories using moving, inspiring characters like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Your subscription is a great motivation for me to continue telling memorable stories in world history.